STEM fans, are you ready? Let's hear it for the world-class NASA STEM Stars team. From NASA centers across the country, we present Jennifer, Jaya, Jamarius Reed, Mina Keon, Asher Hancock, and Sarah Langtod.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of NASA STEM Stars, where we get the opportunity to spotlight different NASA team members from across the agency, hear about their backgrounds and their education, and learn how they got involved with NASA. We get to learn about the work that they do to help further NASA's missions. I'm Seth Johnson. I'm an education specialist from Stennis Space Center, and I'll be your host for today's episode. We have a very special opportunity today to hear not from just one guest, but 5. We have a whole panel of NASA interns joining us today, and we're excited to learn about each of them and their internship experiences. Now, all of our panelists are also members of the Pathways Agency Cross-Center Collaboration Program, or PAXC, and that is a student-run organization that is dedicated to networking with other interns across different NASA centers to promote unity and collaborations across the entire NASA agency. And we'll get to hear more about the benefits of that program from our guests. Before I introduce our first STEM star, let me tell you a little about how our panel discussion is going to go. We will hear from each one of our panelists and get to know them and their backgrounds and how they each ended up here at NASA as interns. We'll hear from each panel member as they take some time to talk about excuse me. We'll hear from each panel member. After we hear from each panel member, we'll take some time to have them answer your questions. So if at any time you have a question for our panelists, please put them in the chat. We would love to hear from you. Following that, we will let each panelist tell you about their own experiences thus far at NASA and about the work that they are doing now to contribute to NASA's projects and missions, as well as the personal growth and experiences they've gained as interns and also as members of the PAXC program. Finally, we'll have some time for some more questions before we close out. So let's get to it and meet our first panelist, Jamarius. Welcome to NASA STEM Stars.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for having me. And welcome everyone joining in on YouTube as well.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you joined NASA as an intern?
Yes, sir. So I'm Jamarius Reed. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, but I actually live in Tennessee now. And I'm a doctoral student at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Currently, I'm working as an intern at Ames Research Center in Silicon Valley, California. And right now I'm working with Electronic Exchange for Emergency Drones. I know it's a very long name, but in short, it's utilizing drone integrations for first responding efforts. And then lastly, my interest and hobbies include scuba diving, boxing, and I enjoy live instruments as well.
Scuba diving and boxing. Have you ever, I hope you've never tried combining the two of those.
Funny story. One of my trainers, when I did my scuba diving, he actually combined skiing and scuba diving at the same time. So that was 2 sports we combined underwater.
Underwater skiing. That's interesting. All right.
And very interesting.
So you're already, have a PhD and you're working on in another doctorate program. How did someone who's already that far in their career end up with an internship at NASA?
So I originally applied for my internship when I was a graduate student working on my master's. And before I get into that, I originally joined the reserves back in 2016, and that's the reason why I relocated to Tennessee. At that time, I was pursuing my bachelor's, and then I moved on to my master's at Embry-Riddle. And during that time, I applied for a NASA internship. I didn't really, when I applied, I didn't expect to get selected just because of my, my unorthodox background. I'm one of those people, I actually flunked out of college before I transferred to Austin Peay State University. After I transferred to Austin Peay, I basically put my head in the books and I gathered myself and made sure I utilized the skills that I gained in the Army into my academic career as well. So that's just my journey how I got here.
I can certainly relate to that. I know how sometimes in school it's a more a matter of your personal discipline and dedication than it is to how book smart you are. And I can imagine that through your service you probably learned a lot of discipline working in the military. And thank you for your service. Next we have Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing good, thanks.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Jennifer Odyssey Jaya, and I'm a second-year computer science student at Northeastern University, and I'm currently a co-op student at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And being a co-op student means that I am working full-time at the lab for about 6 months, and I'm currently a part of the Mars Science Laboratory. And I have a lot of interest in hobbies, but some of them include playing the violin and guitar. I've been playing music for most of my life, and that's me on the bottom left picture there, playing at an event. I also enjoy running and hiking. That's me hiking at the beach on the top left picture there. And I also enjoy photography. So those are some film photos on the bottom right there, black and white film photos. And also some things that I'm trying to continue and integrate more in my life are sustainable living practices and animal welfare.
Now, I've had a lot of friends who've both played instruments, as musicians, and also have, worked in computer science, which, is like a language and math kind of combined together. I mean, do you find that those two things go together, something that's so technical and mathematical, and then something that's more, artistic?
There are some similarities that I find between the two, but I think it works different parts of my mind, and I kind of enjoy that, having that balance. If you ever heard of like left and right brain, so I think it serves as a good balance as an extracurricular and hobby in my life.
Awesome. Well, why don't you take us a little kind of like through your journey of how you applied for and ended up, working at a NASA internship?
Yeah, so I've been wanting to do computer science for most of my life, but what's kind of unique about me is that I actually did no space related projects before my internship. Instead, I showcased my skills through other means, such as creating projects at hackathons. And you can see my friends on the left there at Boston Hacks, and some code that I've written in a project in the middle. And I really wanted to include that picture below there. That's my attempt at a game called Centipede. And as you can see, it's not in a straight line. And I wanted to include that picture because there are just some difficulties that come with computer science all the time, and it's never perfect, but the determination is really important in continuing and finishing that project. And finally, I participate in a lot of different clubs at my school. And if you saw there, Code for Community is one of the clubs that I really enjoy being a part of. We help nonprofit organizations in the Boston community, and we create sort of like websites or applications to make their lives easier.
Fantastic. So I'm going to ask you the first question that has been asked. Let's see. This is from Chris Elliott, and he wants to know if all of you are Pathways interns. Can you give thumbs up if yes? Okay, so we've got a couple who are and a couple who aren't. So Pathways interns, for those of you who don't know, is a program where current students, graduate students, and even recent graduates are kind of you take an internship with NASA to learn some more skills to basically boost your career to begin and to train you up for a long-term career with NASA. All right, Mina, you're up. Can you introduce yourself and tell us about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mina Keon, and I use she, her pronouns. Seth, thank you for having me here today.
Welcome.
So a little bit more about me. I'm currently studying electrical engineering, computer science, and Latin at the University of Minnesota. Go Gophs! And this is my third Pathways rotation at the Johnson Space Center, where I'm currently working in human factors engineering. I'm interested in running, skiing, reading, and just generally spending time with my family.
That is interesting. So you've had, quite a bit of a career working on your third internship with NASA. How did you get to that point, like through your education, to be able to join up with NASA and get in the Pathways program?
Well, I actually had a bit of a non-traditional college experience. I focused a lot of my time and energy on student advocacy. I actually was, sitting on the University Board of Regents, and then I served as student body vice president, and finally my advocacy career culminated in my role as student body president. And throughout my time, I was really passionate about increasing accessibility of higher education and really making sure that institutions are able to serve all of the different populations that want to go and learn more. And so I did things like increasing student voter engagement on campus and trying to get students to feel passionate about the different types of research opportunities that we have on campus. And I think that that passion is in many ways connected to my love of my work at NASA, because even now I'm able to do outreach to multicultural communities and try to get middle school and high school students interested in STEM so that one day they want to also come and have a career at NASA. But I actually did not get the NASA internship the first time I applied, and I want to share that with everybody because I think the most important thing in our work at NASA is learning to be persistent and to continue trying and trying again, even if things don't work out for you the first time.
That's awesome. I know that NASA has kind of like a renewed push for diversity and inclusiveness, and I know that all that work that you've done in your past and all that those leadership opportunities will help you in your NASA career. All right, and now we have Sarah. Sarah, you're up. How does it feel to be a NASA STEM star?
It feels pretty good. It's nice to be able to share our experience with other students. So this is great that we're able to do this. So
well, tell us about
a little
yourself.
bit about yeah, sure. So my name is Sarah Langtod. I am a junior right now at New Mexico Tech. I am studying mechanical engineering and minoring in aerospace. I already have 2 degrees in business, international business and business administration. I graduated in 2010, which means that I am a non-traditional student. I actually started recurring into mechanical engineering a couple of years ago. I started at a community college here in Santa Fe, and then I moved on to New Mexico Tech. Currently, I am doing an internship at Armstrong Flight Research Center in the logistics department. And some of my hobbies are, traveling. I do play soccer. I tinker a little bit with my 3D printers and video games.
That's a lot of fun. I enjoy a lot of those things myself. So tell us about what you did in your background that led you to applying for an internship and getting on with NASA.
Yeah, so my journey has very interesting. I started, like I said, with my bachelor's in business, which I work in banking for quite a while, and then I stopped feeling that passion for that area, and I decided to take a discovery flight, which that was in 2017. Like on the picture, that's me on that discovery flight. And then from there, I realized that I love flying. I really like doing that, and I love space. So why not going into an area that I'm really passionate about? So I started doing. I started applying for the community college, and then I started my first internship in 2018. Right off, my first semester, and then from there I moved into doing other programs like InCost, which is a pretty good program dedicated for community colleges. That's something that I didn't know that NASA did, and I thought that it was very interesting. I just started researching, like, okay, what opportunities are for community college students, and I came up with InCost, which was great because that led into meeting other students that invited me to other NASA competitions. And then last fall, I did the Space Academy, which is another program that NASA has for students, and you do research there. doing that program, actually, my mentor, he contacted me through LinkedIn and recruited me for my current internship, which at the beginning, it was kind of like very weird because I never expected to be at NASA doing an internship. And yeah, so it was a great experience.
So I love InCost. I have been able to mentor a team with InCost a couple years ago through the Office of STEM Engagement. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about that program and what you do into it? Because I know there's a lot of interns at NASA who started off participating in the InCost program.
Absolutely. So NCAS, you do pretty much, you can do it either during during any of the semesters, either spring, summer, or fall. I did it during the summer. That was a month of doing research in a project. I decided to build a rover or do a novel rover. And then you pretty much attend classes. They teach you about the different missions the NASA have and the different programs that they have. Then from there, you get selected to move into an on-site experience. Mine was a Marshall Flight Research Center. Actually, I think I have a picture of the SLS in the presentation. And that was pretty cool because you get to go to one of the centers and then you get to see this kind of projects that NASA is building. I got to also see one of the prototypes that they're doing for Gateway. And that was an invaluable experience for me. That's what started my journey with NASA, to be quite honest. And the cool thing is that NCAS is also like a competition, so you get to build your own prototype rover, and you work with a team of 10 people. You build friendships, you build contacts. I mean, it is a great experience to be there, and we have great mentors. So.
Yeah, that is a really great program, and I would recommend anyone who's in a community college who is planning on moving on to a university for an engineering degree to look into that program. It's targeted specifically for community college students who want to advance their careers in engineering. All right, and finally we have Asher. Asher, thanks for your patience and going last. Welcome to NASA STEM Stars.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, so yeah, I'm Asher Hancock. I'm a senior at the University of Pittsburgh studying mechanical engineering. And I am currently doing my second rotation here at the Marshall Space Flight Center. Like I said before, I'm a Pathways employee. And so specifically, I am in EV41, which is the Control Systems and Analysis branch. And that broadly deals with the control of spacecraft. And then if our control architecture doesn't meet mission requirements, how can we analyze our system and then make tweaks as necessary to meet those requirements? Previously, I worked in structural dynamics, and so that was a lot of finite element analysis and vibration work. So I got to get my hands dirty with some hardcore engineering, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, so outside of work, I greatly enjoy playing the violin, as you can see here. That was taken in a lesson I had. I'm also a bit of a bookworm, excuse me. So you can see in the bottom left is me and my pugs just kind of chilling out and reading. And then I also really enjoy hiking as well. So in the bottom right was a hike in Custer State Park that was in South Dakota. And so yeah, it's a little bit about me. So yeah, so my NASA journey started at the Kennedy Space Center. I was a junior in high school, and so that was a transformative moment for me because I got to see just the incredible engineering that went into the building the Saturn V rocket and specifically the propulsion systems on that. So I grew fond of engineering in high school. And then, so at this point I had wide interest in STEMs. Specifically, I remember being interested in biochemistry and molecular biology and just wanting to study medicine going into college. But I also attended another science camp in high school where a presenter talked about his work at NASA. And after hearing him talk about future space missions and just the science behind that, that really transformed my interest from medicine to aerospace a bit more. So whenever I joined college, I enrolled in the engineering school and I got involved in a lot of engineering clubs, specifically the Aerospace Society for Automotive Engineers, which is where we design, build, and fly radio-controlled aircraft, as you can see in that picture. And that was really good for me because I got to build some, I developed skills that would allow me to function well in a team. And then I also got some research experience and professional experience whenever I did an internship at Collins Aerospace prior. So from those two experiences, I got problem-solving skills, professional skills, being able to work well in a team. And after having developed a strong enough profile, I suppose, I then applied to NASA and was fortunate enough to have gotten the job. And yeah, so that's how I got to NASA today.
Awesome, thanks. Now that we've heard from everybody, we're going to take a few minutes and put all of our panelists on the spot and ask them some questions. I've got a nice list from the chat. And so the first question was directed specifically at Mina. And Derek asks, what did you do after your first rejection to get accepted to the following application process?
Well, I was a little disheartened. They've changed the application process since the time that I applied for Pathways, but they used to have a cap on the first 300 applicants. And so if you didn't apply fast enough, you wouldn't be considered into the next rounds. And, the first time I applied, I didn't get it. The second time I applied a little bit earlier, still didn't get it. And then the third time, I was really smart about it. I actually had copy and pasted all of my answers into a separate document. And the moment the application opened, I just sat there and quickly moved all of my answers into the prompts that I knew the application was going to ask, since I'd applied a few times beforehand. And I submitted it within 35 minutes. And so I really wanted to share the story because I think resiliency is important. And sometimes it's not even about your skill set. It's about whether or not you're just willing to find a way to kind of create a solution for the challenges that you're facing. And I was able to do that. And then I got an interview because I was one of the first 300 applicants that came into that round. And now I work at NASA.
Thank you. And our next question, and I'm going to direct this one to Jamarius. And it said, would it be more conducive to apply for internship with NASA subcontractors or directly to NASA for research?
That's a very good question. And to answer that, to give you 100% answer, it depends on what you want to get out of the internship. Now, one of the paths to get to NASA is, of course, working as a contractor. But what do you want to do for your career, whether it be research-based or more hands-on and engineering-based? You just got to figure out what works best for you. Do you want to continue your studies, or do you want to take time to go to a facility or to a NASA center and spend a summer there and immerse yourself into that program? So you have to come up with a list, sit down, and what works, the pros and cons that works best for you, And once you figure that out, you will make the best decision. I know you will.
All right, and we have another question directed for Sarah, and they want to know, I lost it because it scrolled up. So what's some advice that you have for other college students who are interested in aeronautics?
Honestly, is try everything. There are plenty of opportunities out there for us as students, and it's just a matter of applying to them and just not holding yourself back because you think that you may not be good enough at something. Personally, I thought I was not going to be good enough at math. I learned that, if I put the effort in it, I can do it. And I think that if you go into with that mindset of I can do this, you can accomplish anything. For me, it has been a great journey. I've been able to accomplish many things due to that mindset. Just trying to not hold myself back and applying and trying everything that I can to get to the spot that I want in my career.
Thanks, Sarah. And now, Aiden wants to know, and this is directed towards Asher, for someone who's interested in drones, would it be better for them to take a finite elements class or a course in CFD?
Oh, okay. So they both kind of are okay. They're both similar, and they both kind of go hand in hand. But if I had to pick, I would probably say CFD, just because there's a lot of aerodynamics involved with a drone, and I think that could be conducive towards a better understanding of drone control. So yeah, I would pick CFD, but they're both good courses.
And for the rest of us, can you tell us what CFD is?
Yeah, so CFD is computational fluid dynamics, and so that is, you take your big domain and you break it up into smaller subproblems that you know how to solve, and then you essentially simulate each little grid and string it back together to simulate the big problem. And yeah, awesome. So it's just a way of describing fluid flow. It's cool.
Nice. And Jennifer, we have a question from you. Susanna wants to know if there is a list of contractors for JPL that students can view and apply for jobs with companies that have contracts at JPL.
So I don't believe there's an explicit list available for the public, but a good chance for finding a contractor is, I know there are a lot of space companies near the Pasadena area. For example, I know Raytheon provides contractors to JPL, but we also get some of our pieces for the rover, for example, from companies in San Diego. So there are different ways that you can find contractors. It's just a matter, I guess our best bet is to look at companies related to space around the area.
Thank you very much. And let's see. And I'm going to ask this question for Jamarius. This person wanted to know, how long between the time you applied to your internship and when you received your acceptance?
So this is a frequent question I get a lot. So again, when I first applied, I didn't expect to get selected, and I applied maybe I'll say February. I didn't hear back until early April, almost May, about the selection. So it takes a while when you're first getting into NASA. My second internship at Ames, where I am right now, I applied and it took maybe 30 days. So once you're behind the curtain, it's a little faster. But when you're getting in, just be patient. It can take a while, like 60, 90 days.
All right, and thank you. And I think we've got time for one more question before we move on. And this is from iMain, and they asked, I'm going to direct this one to you, Sarah, because I know you attended a community college. And they want to know, do you know anyone who works at NASA who began at a community college, and any advice for community college students wanting to get involved at NASA?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, one of the mentors that we had on InCost, she started at a community college as well, and she told us her story about how she transitioned. Actually, it's very similar to my transition. Like, we started at a community college. We focused our classes into the things that we really liked and related to the field that we wanted to go, which is mechanical engineering in my case. And then we transitioned to a 4-year university. But there are, if you want to be involved with NASA, there are several programs. Like I said, InCost is the biggest one for community colleges. And there's also the Space Academy. And you can do those programs. They are open to everyone. And you can attend, learn about NASA. They teach you how things work at NASA, and then start applying for internships from there. There are definitely opportunities out there for community college students.
Thanks, Sarah. I know that's going to be really helpful for a lot of students. All right, so now we are going to get back to another round of our interns making their presentations. So Jamarius, we are back around to you. Can you tell us about the work that you are currently doing at NASA as an intern?
So currently, again, I'm working at NASA Ames Research Center, and right now we're working with a group called Drone Responders. And that nonprofit organization that we're working with, we're creating a nationwide database that has just went global, to a global database that will identify assets in a region. This will increase situational awareness for decision makers, and it allow decision makers to get allocated resources to those affected areas. The example I like to use very quickly is just imagine if we had drones during Hurricane Katrina. If we were able to get a drone in the air and assess the situation very quickly, we were able to lean on neighboring states such as Georgia, Alabama. What resources do you guys have until we can get FEMA in here? So that's kind of what we're working on the back end, which is database and the survey.
Well, as somebody from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I can certainly appreciate, you know, all the help that we've received after hurricane. So any kind of faster response and logistical support that can be done for that, would, you know, is a great opportunity. So now let's talk a little bit about the PAXC program. I understand that you have a leadership position in the program. So can you tell us a little bit about the program and your experience participating in it?
Yes, sir. So first, I am a deputy director, and this is my leadership team that you see on the screen. So I'm the deputy director for PAXC, and one of the things that drove me to basically put my hat in for the voting process is because when I did my first internship at Goddard Space Flight Center, summer of 2020, I had no idea what PAXC was. It wasn't until I came to Ames that I figured out what PAXC was. So that's what drove me to get involved. And that's why I want to spread the word. This is an opportunity. This is an organization, a student-led organization that is for students, by students. We do everything. We facilitate communication, knowledge sharing, and ultimately we want to promote One NASA. I know NASA has all of these centers that have their own directorates and objectives, but all of those objectives come into a bigger picture. And what we're trying to do is bridge that gap between employees, interns, pathways, and different people that work within NASA. We're trying to bridge that gap and bring us all together as one. So this is a great organization. If you do become an intern, I highly recommend partaking in Paxy.
Yeah, you're right. Each kind of NASA center kind of has their own specific missions that they participate in. Here at Stennis Space Center, it's the testing of the rocket engines that go on for manned space flight. And so, when you think about it, I mean, each of you are from completely different centers, and so I could see how you might not have even met or interacted because of all the different programs you work on individually. So having that program in place for that collaboration and coordination among each other is really neat. All right, and so now we are back around to you, Jennifer. Can you tell us about the NASA project that you contribute to?
Sure, yeah. So again, I work at JPL and specifically in the Mars Science Laboratory, which is focused on the Curiosity rover. And more specifically in that, I am part of the testbed team. So some things that I do, and you can see there's a picture of Curiosity there. Well, for one, the testbed consists of a similar version of the rover, but with less components that we can test on, as well as software simulations, and those all come together to create the testbed. And my role is to create and work with cloud databases, create scripts, and work with data analytics tools to basically make the testbed team's lives easier. And I like the illustration in the middle there that one of my coworkers created. And it's a rover made up of all the third-party applications that we use, and I think it really embodies the remote working experience, because without those, there's no way that we can run the rover. And finally, at the right there, that's me during the M2020 landing with my Lucky Peanuts, and those are just one of the events that I got to attend as an intern, and definitely one of the most memorable times, a part of my internship so far. And if you could look back, those are all of the calls and streams that I had open simultaneously, just to be a part of the fun. And yeah, that's about what I work on.
I really love the way that you put that. When you think about it, Perseverance really is like the ultimate remote worker. So just the working at NASA and participating in your internship, can you tell us about just the experience and professional skills that you've learned and the growth that you've experienced from your internship?
Yeah, so just like Jamarius, I actually didn't know what Paxy was going into my co-op, but I found out through one of the Slack channels that we use that they needed to pass on the JPL Center Chair position, so I decided to take it on. And now I am the JPL Center Chair, which means I represent JPL in PAXC, and I attend bi-weekly meetings and meet with the other center chairs from different centers. And unfortunately, we've never met in person, so these are just some lovely stock images that I use to represent how I communicate with them. And there are a lot of different things that I've gained from working as a center chair, such as creating events and promoting NASA advocacy, as well as time management, because I do have to handle this on top of my current project that I work on. And altogether, it's given me a lot of confidence in outreach and event planning, which is something that I haven't really done before, but this has given me the opportunity to expand on those skills.
And and once again, kind of like that whole networking that you're working on through PAXC, where you have all these interns from all the different centers connecting together. It's really helpful in the skill set that we're all trying to develop now, because even people working within the same center are having to use those same strategy, those same skills of remote working and networking from isolated places. So thank you, Jennifer. And all right, so next up again is Nina. Nina, let's hear what awesome work you are doing for NASA.
So I want to speak about the 3 different projects I've had the chance to work on during my different rotations. So the first one, if you look on the picture on the left, is actually my first ever NASA internship. I was helping develop a balloon-sat payload with a team of my fellow interns, and we were running this test in order to better measure the LTE signals from space and understand what kind of interference there might be for any NASA missions in the future. In my second rotation, I had the chance to work with the robotics team at the Johnson Space Center, and I was specifically working on Robonaut. There's a picture of Robonaut at the center. And through this internship, I really was able to develop a lot of additional skills in dealing with robotics, which is going to be helpful because that's what I'm going to be studying in graduate school. And in my current rotation, I'm working in human factors engineering. And this is a very radically different role than any of my previous internships, because as an electrical engineer, I have been learning how to do electrical engineering principles. And a lot of times you think about optimizing technical solutions based off of the different theories that you learn in your class environment. But when you're going into human factors engineering, you have to kind of change your perspective from somebody who thinks about technical solutions to thinking about the needs of the user, especially in a situation like spaceflight. You can face these really challenging and often dangerous circumstances. And so the user experience has to be optimized in a way that can be safe for the astronauts to be able to go and complete their missions. And just thinking about things in that perspective has really broadened my skills as an engineer. And I think it's been challenging, but it's really been an enjoyable experience.
I can imagine. I think that the hardest part of space exploration is putting the people there. And it's one thing to look up at the stars and study them. It's another thing to send satellites and probes and landers, and then it's a whole nother level to safely send humans there. And so all the work that you do to make it safe and optimized for for them to be able to live and work in space and carry out their mission is really exciting and neat. And so finally, once again, Sarah is next. So Sarah, let's hear what kind of program you're involved in with at NASA.
Definitely. I am working at Armstrong Flight Research Center. I am in the logistics department. I am not doing quite engineering like the rest of the group so far. I am actually doing project management in Lean Six Sigma. So what that means is that my job is to find errors in the policies and procedures that NASA has in place, not only for Armstrong, but for the agency in general. So what I've been doing is kind of building up a puzzle in a way, because I have to read and research several documents that the agency has in place for us, and make sure that whatever is said by, in general for the agency, us as a center, we are matching the same procedures and policies they have in place for us, especially since we deal a lot with, the aircrafts. So we got to make sure that whatever we have in place, we do the right thing for the pilots to be safe, for the equipment to be there on time for them to be able to do their testings. And that is not only affecting my center, but it's also affecting part of the policies that may, affect the agency in general, because some things that we're doing at Armstrong may be different at a different agency or at a different center. So we can suggest changes as of, hey, you know what, we figure out a better way to do this and streamline our processes and make them better, and there are no errors on that, and help other agencies that way as well to work together as a group and keep making these awesome projects that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, what NASA does are a series of very large and complex projects, and just all the logistics that goes into bringing all those things together. Some of our programs, like the launch of the Space Webb Telescope in a few months, and the launch of the first Space Launch System rocket, and hopefully next year, is decades in the making. And so just the processes that go involved in the manufacturer, the engineering, the collaboration, all the assembly, just all of those different logistical puzzles, as you put it, being able to streamline those and make NASA work as efficiently as possible, it just adds that much more to the capability of our missions. And so that's really neat. And so now, finally, once again, first we want to talk to you about your experience as being an intern, not just on the project you're working on, but what kind of personal growth and work skills that you've developed at NASA.
Well, definitely time management has been a very important one, because being a part of PAXC, I am a part of the event committee. So we get to do events for us, for the interns in general, and we do we use different types of communication inside the agency and outside, which can also open up to friendships outside of work, if you may. And so that's one of the main things that I've learned, time management. I mean, networking in general, having that connection with not only other students, but also with throughout the different events that Paxy has for us. We have lectures and seminars from NASA, engineers or scientists, and we get to learn from that too. So it is a great thing to be a part of NASA, because we have so many resources.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. And finally, now, once again, Asher, we get back to you again. So you can tell us about the project that you're working on.
Sure. Yeah, so like I said before, I'm in the EV41 branch, which is the Control Systems and Analysis branch at Marshall Space Flight Center. And I support the ongoing efforts in guidance, navigation, and control. And so if you aren't familiar with those terms, navigation is, where am I right now? Guidance is, given where I'm at, how can I get from A to B? So what trajectory should I follow? And then control is, okay, given this trajectory, how am I physically going to get there? So what forces and torques do I have to exert to get from point A to B? So among those three, I'm more focused on the guidance and control aspect. And specifically, I'm working to develop a visual framework to analyze a control law with a new guidance sensor. And so that sensing technology is called SVGS, which stands for the Smartphone Video Guidance Sensor. And it is a sensor that works off a smartphone, and it can serve a variety of purposes that range from entry, descent, and landing to spacecraft rendezvous and docking. And so, again, specifically, like what I'm doing is I'm using a software called Unreal Engine 4, which is a visual gaming software. If you play Fortnite or other games, you might be familiar with Unreal Engine. And so, given this visual framework, I developed some code that allows us to control a camera actor in the software. And so that way we can see exactly how our control architecture is going to perform. We have this complex mathematical model, but it's not very tangible. You can't really see how it's going to perform. And so with this, we can see how our current algorithm is going to work, make tweaks if necessary, and then we can expand that that simulation software to encompass a variety of different scenarios. So it's been pretty exciting and fun so far.
That's really neat. So one of the things I love about NASA are all the spin-off technologies. That is when NASA is trying to develop something that's nearly impossible, and all these different technologies that they have to develop along the way. NASA is a public agency, so all these technologies are available to different industries to utilize and to be used in products that help us in our daily lives. So with all the autonomous self-driving cars that are coming online, what other sort of spin-off technologies from the work that you're doing, what I heard you talk about, how did you think we can benefit from these technologies in our everyday lives?
Yeah, so I think there's something to be said for having some open source software. Just in general, I think having the work you do, especially if it's code, being open source so that anyone else who's interested can benefit is really good just for society in general. So I see the Paxy slides up here, so I can talk about that super quickly. So Paxy has been great so far in my internship, especially given the challenging circumstances right now in the telework environment. I think being involved in Paxy and just having that community of other interns has really benefited me. Some examples of that is lunch and learn. So get to hear different branch chiefs talk about what they do on a day-to-day, or hear other interns talk about their work is always really fun and interesting. And also just having like networking and mentoring events, it's really good for professional development and growth as a student and engineer. And like I said, just having that group and community of people that you can look to collaborate with or just to talk to, given these like teleworking conditions, has been really beneficial.
That's really great. So now that we have heard from everybody, we have some more time. So we are going to ask some more questions to our panel. And the first one I'm going to ask to Mina, since you've had 3 different rotations as a Pathways intern, so you've probably worked under several different personnel at NASA. So this question is, what is the best advice you've ever gotten from a mentor?
Well, I've gotten a lot of great advice, but I think it's probably very common for interns to feel really anxious when they start their internship experiences and wonder how they're going to make any significant contributions to these really critical and impactful missions. But my mentors always remind me to use each experience as a learning opportunity and to not just think about the way that I can create an impact on this work, but also to seek experiences that I might not be fully prepared for initially, but can grow from and develop from in order to become a better technical engineer. And that was really important advice for me because, nobody knows everything when they start their projects at NASA. And so sometimes I think you can feel a little bit shy about pushing yourself into these like really uncomfortable environments. But my mentors have been really supportive in giving me exposure to things that I never got exposure to in my coursework or even from my previous internship opportunities. And as a result, I've learned about topics that I never knew that I'd initially be interested in and found areas of research that I now want to dedicate the rest of my life to.
Thanks. That's really good advice. And Jamarius, we have a question from Naya. She wants to know, what did you get your undergrad degree in?
My undergrad was in computer science.
In computer science? All right. And since that was a short question, I'll follow up with another one. Do you want to stay at NASA or use your internship experience for another career?
Well, fortunately, NASA has me for life. I'm going to stay here as long as I can until they kick me out the door. So, I knew from, at a very early age that working for NASA, that was my home. And my first internship, when I actually got behind that curtain, I realized, okay, this is where I'm meant to be. And so ever since then, I've been fighting and scratching just to stay because, the hard part is not getting here. The hard part is staying here. So when you get here to this intern, make sure you take advantage of every opportunity. That's the biggest advice I can give.
Awesome, thanks. So I'm going to ask this next one to, let's see, I'll ask this one to to Jennifer, because I know she works on some things that deal with the rover, and she works directly with a very large project. Have you ever broken anything expensive or made a big mistake at NASA, and what happened afterwards?
So I'm working with a lot of big data for my project, and when you're working with literally millions of documents, it's not very memory friendly for a lot of computers. So, for example, recently when I'm trying to work with a lot of data in one of my programs, it almost crashed one of the remote computers that I was using. However, it's just a part of the learning experience and having to work with this much data. And luckily, a lot of my mentors and coworkers were very glad to help out and try to find different solutions. So of course, it's not the end if it doesn't work out the way you thought it would, but luckily there are a lot of resources during my internship that allowed me to overcome that obstacle. And I didn't really completely break it, but it was still a struggle, and I'm glad that I overcame it in the end.
That's good. And so, Asher, I'm going to ask this question to you. What set of skills put us at a higher chance of getting accepted into an internship with NASA?
Okay. So, I think there's something to be said for being like well-rounded. So not only having the technical ability, so being able to understand complex math if you need to, having some programming skills, and just being a hard worker. I think those go a long way. But it's also the people skill. How well can you work with a team? Every project you work on, you're going to be interfacing with someone else, and so I think having that, being a good teammate goes a really long way. And so I would focus on those couple skills. I think that would be beneficial.
All right, thanks. All right, and Sarah, I've got a short question, so I'll follow it up with another one afterwards that's kind of related. This person wants to know, was the application process difficult?
I don't think the application process is difficult, but it's definitely time consuming. So set aside some time to be able to think about the questions they are asking and just be truthful to how you're answering. That will be my answer to that.
And the follow-up question is, how confident were you that you would get accepted to the internship program when you applied?
So I have a similar experience like Mina. The first time that I applied, I got rejected. So that was kind of discouraging at the beginning, but then I decided to just keep applying. And so the second time I was a part of a program, and that's how my current mentor from logistics, he reached out to me and offered me the position. So that time I was very confident.
Yeah, getting help from a mentor and getting, helping you, word things correctly and having them guide you to kind of show off your strengths is definitely getting help from a mentor who's navigated those types of things before is always a big help. All right, next question will be for Mina. As a college student, what else besides internships should I get involved in to work towards a career at NASA?
I really think that people in engineering programs sometimes underestimate the importance of working in a team and also the value of having leadership experiences that teach you to take initiative in certain situations. I really appreciate that throughout my undergraduate career, I was able to go and work in very different types of projects with very different types of people, because at NASA, you can't just have one person, completely create the mission to the moon. It takes hundreds and hundreds of people working all together on different units in order to be able to kind of synthesize the large-scale projects that successfully allow us to complete things like the Artemis missions. So I would really encourage people that beyond just making sure you have the technical skills that you want, that you're taking the time to work in team projects, that you're learning to take initiative by having various leadership experiences, because I think those will really help you be successful at NASA.
Thanks. So now we have a question, and I think I will direct this kind of towards everybody. We'll kind of do a little round robin, starting with Jamarius, and go through this question. It says, what would you say is the number one factor that got you all accepted into the programs you applied for? Was it passion, academic success and grades, or simply just applying early and putting in a good application? So we'll start with you, Jamarius.
I would use two words. I would say versatility and perseverance. The reason I say versatility is because Mina kind of hit on it a little bit. Not only having the technical skills, but having those soft skills as well. Being able to wear multiple hats. If you learn how to juggle those hats early on, trust me, you will go a long way. So versatility. Perseverance is like all of us here have experienced. It may not have been a perfect route, or we may not have been accepted the first time, but continuing to try, even when the odds are not in your favor. Continue. Don't push. Don't quit. So those are the two things.
I want to write both of those down. Those are both great pieces of advice. Jennifer, how about for you?
Yeah, I've got to say something similar, and it's being well-rounded, because I think they, when they're recruiting, they look for skills, certain skills, but even if you don't have those specific skills, I think NASA is a great way to cultivate and learn and grow in your internship experience, and they give you lots of opportunities to branch out and even learn about different things. For example, I have never taken a formal aerospace class, but through JPL, I had the opportunity to take one and learn through that. So you definitely don't have to know everything going in, but being open and being a fast learner is something that I think will definitely help.
Yeah, being well-rounded and I mean, when you think about astronauts, when the astronaut program first started, every single one was a test pilot because that's what we were doing. Now with all the different types of experiments that go on in space, the most thing that an astronaut can be is well-rounded and able to learn a large variety of skills. So being able to be maneuverable within what you're doing. Even in the job that I'm working with NASA right now, started off writing curriculum. Never thought in a million years that I'd be hosting live events. So just being able to willing to give anything a try and doing your best at it. All right, Mina, we'll move on to you for your answer.
I think Jamarius really answered it well, but I guess I'll also add that it's really important to be like an internally motivated person. At NASA, they don't look for people who, when told, go do this one thing, will go do that one thing. They want people who will say, hey, I see that this thing needs to be done. Can I help with that? Like, do you want somebody else who can maybe look at it from a different perspective? I think it's really important that you're curious and that you're willing to go and take on different types of challenges that maybe weren't initially given to you, but you can learn from. And so also through that, being resilient, because you're not always going to be successful in your first trial, but just being willing to push through and change your approach to a problem in order to make sure that you can be successful at the end.
So my question, I'm going to follow that up with another question, Mina. So that eagerness, is that something that you can actually put in your application? Is there something in your internship application where you can highlight these skills that you have about your drive and determination and willingness to take the initiative?
I think that you can talk about your experiences and how you manage like issues of failure when you're actually in your interview. It's hard to convey that in the written portion of the application, but they'll ask you about projects that you've worked on during your interview. And if you could just talk about things that didn't go well and how you learned to overcome those challenges, I think that that's a lot more impactful to share than talking about an experience where everything worked out perfectly the first time.
Awesome. Thanks, Mina. Thanks for clarifying that. And Sarah, we'll move on to you.
Actually, I want to add on to that question, if you don't mind. In the application, at least the one that I did for, not for pathways, but the other method that you can apply for being an intern, there is a question at the end that says, why NASA? Why are you applying to NASA in itself? And I think that that's where you can show the passion that you have for, why you want to be here. And I think that there's a way that you could translate. I mean, besides what Mina said about, talking about the projects that you have done, about how passionate you are about doing those projects. Talk about as well why you want to be, why are you passionate to work at that place that you're applying for? To me, that was, they also ask you that question when you interview for your internships. And I think that it's very important to show that, the why you want to be there. I think that helps as well as, everything else that has been mentioned.
All right, thanks, Sarah. And once again, Asha, we're gonna talk to you last. I know going last can always be tricky. You get more time to think about your answer, but sometimes everyone always steals your answers. So we'll let you finish us off.
Right. Yeah, so I'll kind of piggyback off what everyone already said. So I think the skills that made me successful and fortunate to have this job was, like Jamarius said, being versatile, and then also being like a self-starter and being able to convey that. So in any kind of project I've been involved with so far, I've always had to rely on knowledge from a lot of different disciplines. So being able to wear, like you said, different hats was very helpful. And, just also being able to learn different topics if you need to quickly. You got to remember, if you're going to be an intern, you might be around for 4 or 5 months. You would like to learn whatever material you need as quickly as possible, so that way you can actually start doing the real work on your project. And also just being like a self-starter, being able to spearhead a project in a direction that it needs to go, whenever you're given the luxury and the leadership to do so, is can go a long way and really just show your initiative. So that's what I would recommend.
Awesome. Thanks for that answer, Asher. Well, I'm afraid we are running out of time, and so I want to thank Jennifer, Jamarius, Sarah, Mina, and Asher for joining us today and sharing their stories and experiences. But before we sign off, I would like to extend to each of you at home, especially the students, this episode's challenge. Your mission is to learn more about NASA's internship program by visiting our internship website at intern.nasa.gov, where you can learn about the different internship opportunities, eligibility requirements, and the application process. Then share with us on social media at #NextGenSTEM what you learned and why you want to give your career a boost by becoming a NASA intern. The activities by following us at NASA Interns. Don't forget to tune into our next episode of NASA STEM Stars, where we will resume our series on advanced air mobility with our guest, helicopter pilot and aeronautical specialist, David Zahn. That will be on Wednesday, April 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And better yet, please subscribe so that you get notifications and never miss an episode. Once again, a big thanks to our intern panelists for participating with us today. And I thank you for tuning in and participating as well. We hope to see you all on our next episode of NASA STEM Stars.